you changing your plea?
Abruptly.
Mr. Bankman-Fried,
Why make the context?
Are you worried you're going to prison?
Are you worried you're going to prison? Of course he's not worried that he's going to go to prison. Of course he's walking around with that smug little look on his face. I mean, he thinks that he is getting away with all of this. It must be nice. It must be nice to be so elite, so protected, to have parents that work within the system, to be protected by the system because the system has benefited from the fraud that you've committed. I mean, it must just be so nice. So why don't we take a look and see what this is all about, because it certainly sounds like drips and oozes with what the fuck? Rules for you, but not for me is just kind of the only thing that I can think of right now. So prosecutors drop the campaign finance charge against Sam Bankman-Fried. The removal of the campaign finance charge is a victory for Mr. Bankman-Fried's legal team, which had argued that the United States mishandled the process of extraditing him from the Bahamas. Federal prosecutors pursuing the criminal case against the cryptocurrency mogul Sam Bankman-Fried said on Wednesday that they were dropping a charge that Mr. Bankman-Fried violated campaign finance rules. Mr. Bankman-Fried was charged with fraud and campaign finance violations last December after the sudden collapse of his company, the cryptocurrency exchange FTX. He was quickly extradited to the United States from the Bahamas, where FTX was based. But in a court filing on Wednesday night, the prosecutors said that they had been informed by officials in the Bahamas that the nation's government had not intended to extradite Mr. Bankman-Fried on the campaign finance charge. In keeping with its treaty obligations to the Bahamas, the government does not intend to proceed to trial on the campaign contributions count. The removal of the campaign finance charge is a victory for Mr. Bankman-Fried's legal team, which had argued that the United States mishandled the extradition process, and it follows the prosecution's decision in June to proceed to a trial in October without pursuing 5 other charges that were added to Mr. Bankman-Fried's indictment in the weeks following his extradition. So convenient, if I must say, so convenient. Authorities have said that Mr. Bankman-Fried and others at FTX used customer deposits to make $90 million in campaign contributions to more than 300 political candidates or political action committees. Months ago, prosecutors and bankruptcy lawyers for FTX began asking recipients of those donations to return them. That would be a really interesting thing to see. Where are we in the donations being returned? Have those been returned? Or is the reason why they want to get rid of this campaign finance charge so that they can obfuscate the system and circumvent it in a way that works for them so that they don't have to return those donations? Interesting thought. A spokesman for Mr. Bankman-Fried declined to comment. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, which is prosecuting the case, did not respond to a request for a comment. In total, Mr. Bankman-Fried is now set to face 7 charges at his trial in October, including accusations that he defrauded customers and lenders of FTX. Prosecutors have argued that he orchestrated a sweeping fraud, siphoning billions of dollars that customers had deposited with FTX to finance campaign contributions, charitable donations, and real estate purchases. And this is where I am extremely suspect. Siphoning billions of dollars that customers had deposited with FTX to finance campaign contributions. So it begs the question, by getting rid of the campaign finance charge against Sam, what does that mean then for customers that had their money taken and put towards campaign contributions? What does that do to donations that should be returned? What kind of penalties are we going to see, not just against Sam and FTX, but people that accepted this money, people that don't return the money. These are all, I think, valid questions that should be had. And it seems, unfortunately to me, that they're going to use the getting rid of the campaign finance charge against Sam by getting rid of that so that they don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of this. But that's just me. Prosecutors are planning a second trial on the 5 charges that were withdrawn in June, including an accusation that Mr. Bankman-Fried bribed a foreign government. They said they were forced to postpone a trial on those counts while litigation over the extradition unfolds in the Bahamas. Now, I'm wondering, this is just pure speculation, if the foreign government that he allegedly bribed is the Bahamas. I mean, because that kind of would compute, but we shall see. John P. Fishwick Jr., a former U.S. attorney for the Western District of Virginia, said prosecutors still had overwhelming evidence against Sam Bankman-Fried. He added that the removal of the campaign finance charge could work to the government's advantage by making it a simpler fraud case to present to a jury. I mean, it's so nice of them to want to make it a simpler fraud case to present to a jury because, you know, if we're looking at overwhelming evidence that we have against Sam Bankman-Fried and the billions of dollars that went to finance campaign contributions that no one wants to respond to and that we don't know the status of those donations being returned, it just feels super convenient.
Am I right?
Yes, you are.
If convicted on the securities fraud and wire fraud charges, Mr. Bankman-Fried faces the prospect of being sentenced to dozens of years in prison. It's not clear what impact the decision by prosecutors will have on others associated with Mr. Bankman-Fried who are being investigated for campaign finance violations, including Nishad Singh, a former FTX executive who is a key cooperating witness. In February, Mr. Singh, 27, became the 3rd former top lieutenant of Mr. Bankman-Fried to plead guilty to a variety of charges and work with prosecutors. The company's former director of engineering pleaded guilty to taking part in a scheme overseen by Mr. Bankman-Fried to funnel tens of millions in illegal campaign donations to mostly Democratic candidates and political action committees. This is why I find it highly suspect that they are wanting to get rid of the campaign finance charge against Sam because there is so much evidence to show that there has been illegal campaign donations made, surprisingly to the Democratic candidates. It begs that question. Why do you want to remove the campaign charge when it's looking so much like that's where the bulk of the illegality is coming from? Andrew Goldstein, a lawyer for Mr. Singh, was not immediately available for comment. Mr. Fishwick said Mr. Singh has no valid reason to withdraw his guilty plea on the campaign finance charge. Doing so is never an easy task. So if Mr. Singh is still going to be held responsible to his guilty plea on the campaign finance charge, then why is Sam Bankman-Fried, why is that campaign finance charge against him being removed? Lots of questions, lots of shady shit that seems like it's going on. And it also feels like Mr. Singh is probably going to be used as the fall guy for the campaign stuff because heaven forbid Sam be the one held responsible for the tens of millions in illegal campaign donations to mostly Democratic candidates and political action committees. Heaven forbid he be held responsible for those actions because he was the boss. He was the one making the ultimate decisions, not Mr. Singh. But there we go. Ryan Salome, another FTX executive, is also under investigation for making campaign finance contributions to mostly Republican candidates. Mr. Salome has not been charged with any wrongdoing. But in April, federal agents showed up at his Maryland home to seize cell phones used by him and his girlfriend, Michelle Bond, who ran a crypto lobbying group. And I mean, a crypto lobbying group, it's all there. Like, it's all there in front of us, and they're trying to act like it's not in front of us, that we don't see it, but we do. And it's just a freaking shit show. And campaigned unsuccessfully for Congress as a Republican from Long Island. So as we can see, this is just another bit of showing us how incredibly effed up our system is. The fact that the campaign finance charge against Sam is being dropped really does show where the power is. They do not want to hold Sam accountable for the campaign finance charge because it is going to hold so many other people accountable. And that's why they're doing this. This is what looks like to me a huge CYA from the prosecution's angle to not have to hold all of those billions of dollars that has gone to different political campaigns, especially since it's primarily to the Democrats. I mean, we think that politics and the judicial system aren't cozy with each other. I mean, people want to think this, but the reality is that they are extremely cozy. And this is why we have so little judicial overhaul going on that should be going on, because the politicians want to keep certain laws in place that we have to adhere to, but that they don't, because they're able to buy into the system. They're able to get the best lawyers that know this system inside and out, that have cozy relationships with judges, that have cozy relationships between the prosecution and the defense. If you think these people aren't canoodling in the background and having all of these different conversations, I mean, there's a reason why shows like The West Wing was so popular. There's a reason why shows like Law and Order are so popular, because they mirror quite a bit of the reality of what is going on in the world. There is a lot to be gleaned from those. There is some, there's creative embellishment that goes on behind the scenes, of course. But looking at the relationship between attorneys and judges and politicians and Democratic parties and Republican parties and all of the different enmeshment that goes on, it's because it's real. It's because it's there. And we do not see that system blatantly shown to us in all of its strings unless someone is willing to come forward and expose those strings. And a lot of times, if they do, they're the ones that have their characters assassinated or completely assassinated. And it's just one of those things where they do not want it to be exposed that this system is such a fucked up, subversive system that benefits others and screws over those that don't deserve it, because it's a dual system. Rules for thee, but not for me, is pretty much what all of this is. And here's something to just kind of keep in mind. Both of his parents are professors at Stanford Law School. His aunt is the dean of Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health. His brother is a former Wall Street trader and the former director of the nonprofit Guarding Against Pandemics and its associated political action committee. That's interesting, guarding against pandemics. Another video for another day. One thing that's been talked a lot about in kind of our cultural sphere is the level of nepotism that happens in a place like Hollywood, that a lot of these Nepo babies are getting the roles and stuff that they're getting simply because of the connections that they have. Now, that is definitely true, and you can see from like the way that they perform and the way that they act that they're not at the level of like really good actors that we can see that have really honed their craft over the years. But there are a lot of exceptions to that rule. We have nepotism everywhere, and it's not just in Hollywood, and it's not just in politics. Nepotism is everywhere. It's in every corporation. It's in almost every single law firm. It is everywhere. And when you have nepotism within areas like politics, Hollywood, the corporate world, and then the judicial system, it leads to shit like this. His father, Alan Joseph Bankman, is an American lawyer currently working at the Ralph M. Parsons Professor of Law and Business at Stanford Law School and a licensed psychologist. He earned his Bachelor of Arts from the University of California, Berkeley, and a Juris Doctorate from Yale. And it's one of these things where we cannot act like this isn't going to play a part and play a role in the way that Sam is treated within the legal system, because his father is an attorney, is a freaking professor at Stanford Law School, went to Yale Law School. I mean, these are elite institutions, and we know in these elite institutions that there is not only legacy admissions, but there is also lots of networking that goes on, very specific groups and organizations within these different schools that just keep the elite eliting. And then his mother, Barbara Helen Fried, is also an American lawyer. She's also a professor of law at Stanford Law School. She graduated from Harvard with a BA and also an MA, and then got her JD from Harvard Law School. So she graduated from Harvard Law School. Sam's father graduated from Yale Law School. These are both two prestigious universities that are held to like the highest esteem in this country. And if you're going to look at the attorneys within this case, the fact that both of his parents have connections, very likely, and networks within both Stanford, Yale, and Harvard, I mean, it's all there. It's not a what you know, it's a who you know. And if you know that it is a very close-knit system. They do not like to have new people join, and the people that do join, they pretty much expect conformity. They do not like rebel rousers. They do not like people that speak up about these kinds of things. They do not like it when someone exposes the system for what it is, which is that it's a completely separate system. If you're elite versus everybody else, because the elite can pay the money, the elite have the connections, and the elite, as we've seen in a very extreme case like Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they have so much information on each other because it's really common for these elites to be doing a lot of shit in a lot of places, and they've all got dirt on each other. These are people that have enjoyed conforming to the system because they benefit from their conforming to the system. And that, I think, is one of our biggest issues right now, is that we have so many people that are willing to conform and let go of their morals and let things slide because they want to benefit from the right now. And I do get it. We all need money. We all need to be able to support ourselves. But the more that we continue to bend over and take it, and conform to what they want us to conform to, the worse it's going to be. And the longer it's going to take for change to happen. It is really hard to stand for your morals and ethics, and it's really hard to not do what the rest of the other people around you are doing, that are buying the nice homes, that are buying the nice cars, that are going on the fancy trips, and all of this aesthetic Instagram, TikTok beauty that we see. It's really hard to not want to be part of that club. But the thing is that that's exactly what it is. It's a club. It's a pretty small club. They do not want you in it. And the only way they do want you in it is if you are going to perpetuate the cycle of conformity. You won't ask questions and you won't talk about what you see. That's what they want. And that's what they demand. That's why someone like Sam Bankman-Fried is probably one of the best examples of nepotism, of our judicial system being a fucked up system that works for some but not for the rest, that's built in a way to affect us, the everyday people, more than it does the elites, because they're the ones that can pay into the system. They're the ones that conform. They're the ones that have all of the connections. This kid right here is likely not going to see jail time. And if he does, he'll probably get out pretty soon. If, like I said, if he even goes to prison. I will be surprised if he spends any amount of time in prison. He should be held responsible. But will he be?
Highly unlikely.
Well, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on new videos that I have coming out every single week. Thanks again for watching. Stay safe, take care, and be kind to each other.